round two, I guess, back on the podcast for the second time.
Heck yes.
Like we were talking about before, it's been a minute. It doesn't feel like though it's been that long. It's kind of a weird thing. I guess just being so busy. I don't know. You've definitely been busy as well. So time just kind of it flies by when you have like, oh, I have this thing Wednesday, I have this thing next Tuesday, I have this next thing like in the next week. For me, it's almost like sometimes I want to it's weird. It's sometimes I want to like deload my schedule just to make time feel slower.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. And another thing with that is like when you have goals so big, it's just like you're chasing that next, next, next. And it's like it all goes so fast, but you're like, wait, can I just like sit here like in the now because it's so fun. But yeah, I feel like when life is that busy and exciting, it's like that's what we work our butts off for.
Yeah.
So
You just recently actually did something pretty unique this last week, didn't you? Tell us a little bit about
I
that.
okay. Awesome. So I actually went to so I work with this company called Impact Fitness Coaching Academy, and they're absolutely incredible. Basically, they teach coaches how to be better coaches. Because as we know, coaches can tend to be business owners, they can tend to be marketers, they can tend to be social media influencers, all like coaching at the same time, trying to like scale a business, trying to replicate and that kind of thing. So they had a business coaches retreat, and it was about 90 fitness business coaches in the same room, just talking about what works, what doesn't. And I came home with the most incredible just ideals that I didn't even know I didn't know. Because you really don't know what I'm like, oh yeah, my processes are awesome. Like, because they've worked this far, but it's like to get to that next level, you have to continue evolving. You have to continue to say, hey, what does it look like from the client perspective? Because like I've been doing this 2.5 years now. It's like, oh, it's so second nature to me. But like every single time we sign on a new client, like that is so foreign to them. So like how do we make it simpler and just like keeping the client in mind and like the entire experience, and then also just like building the community. So biggest takeaway, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Because I know it really business, when it comes down to it, it's like who is the front runner, like who owns that business, how is she showing up, that is where that business is going to go. A lot of people will say like you are not your business, and I disagree with that, because I know for me personally, when I am on it, my girls are on it, my team is on it. When I'm not on it and I'm like, we're just gonna like do this whole balance thing and like party on the weekend, like no, that's not what makes me happy, that's not what fulfills me. So then I show up like Monday morning and I'm like, I don't feel like I led by example this weekend. And I would I want my girls doing that? No. So just finding that balance of like the business isn't me, but I am I do have to lead by example, and I do have to show up for myself and reach my highest levels so that my clients can reach their highest levels. So I think just constantly being a student of anything is the greatest thing you can do for yourself, and constantly asking the question, even if it sounds dumb and you're like, man, I don't even know like if I should ask this, but like asking it, because you never know what that answer is going to be. And you never know like the doors that is going to unlock to say, oh my gosh, I thought my community was good. Like, but what they got, that's special. Like, how can I kind of implement that? Another big thing I learned is like, there's no one path. And I think this relates to everything in life. People are always like, what's the shortcut? What's this? And it's like, you have to find what works for you. And I found myself saying that so much, because like other coaches would come to me and be like, man, your community looks awesome, how did you do that? And I'm like, you have to find what works for you. I wish I had that answer, but truly, like, it's basically come down to, I've asked my ladies, what do you want? What can I do to provide more? What's going to make you guys more engaged? What's going to make you guys love this even more? And just keep building on that day after day, and like searching for ways and then implementing those. If it doesn't work, try again, kind of thing. So that was a lot there. A big tangent. I get passionate.
When you first were getting involved in this experience, when you're not actually there yet, going back in time a little bit, and you're thinking to yourself like, okay, I'm going to be at this event with all of these other people, all these other coaches, and I don't know specifically how you are, but in a big environment, I am like way kind of like, you really have to push me in order to like get me in the middle of the room. Did you have any nerves about putting yourself in the middle of that, in the middle of that situation? And like, what are these people going to think of me? Like, how am I going to like, because even when we maybe know something, we still doubt ourselves. Did you have any doubts about your own self going into that?
Absolutely. I think, don't we all? I remember I'm like literally getting like hot and nervous, like just thinking about it, because that's what it like felt like. You walk into a room and people have thrown out numbers of clients they work with and money they're making and cars they drive, just everything we judge everyone on, those things that people don't really talk about, but yet it's being judged, and you're like, oh my God, I could never do that. Oh my God, she's sitting right next to me. Like we almost just like take away the human aspect that they are human, because at the end of the day, we were all exactly human. And that kind of goes back to the point of like asking questions, because you don't know. And we always assume that everyone else is better than us. And that's just because we compare our dirty laundry to everyone's highlight reel. So everything we see on the outside, we're comparing what we see, everything. But the thing is, they had to struggle too. They put their pants on the same way we do. And it's like, when you realize that, and you realize everybody has something unique to bring to the table, then it's very comforting to say, hey, I'm going to go in. I'm going to know what my strong suit is. I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to help others with that. But I'm also going to ask questions about my weak points. How can I get better? And I'm going to use this as a chance to grow. It kind of just completely takes away the stress, the uncomfortableness, because you're taking ownership of it. You're not saying like, I mean, yeah, somebody can be like, okay, but you suck at marketing or whatever it is. And you're like, I don't care. I know that. Like, that's why I'm here trying to work on it. That's why I'm asking questions about how is your onboarding process? How is this? Like that kind of thing. And yeah, I think it comes down to knowing yourself, but also trusting yourself and doing the work to get to that next level. And every single time I walk into an event like that, I'm scared, but I challenge myself in one direction, and I'm going to lean into that, because I'm like, I didn't just come here for no reason. I came here to force that growth, get better. And that's kind of how I take on everyday life. Every single time I step foot in the gym, I'm like, okay, what's my focus today? Like, we've got to force our growth in that direction. So yeah, I know for me, a big thing is like public speaking. And of course, a situation like that, it's going to pull that out of you. So, I mean, literally day one, they were like, who hates public speaking? And I'm like, like, all right, stand up. And of course, I'm like, oh, what did I just do? What did I just do? Can I just go to the bathroom real quick? But no, so they like had us all talk about like one thing that changed our business in 2022 that made it for the better. And like our whole table talked about it. And then they were like, yeah, we like your idea. So of course I'm like, okay, yeah, I got this. So I was like, here's my chance to like prove to myself what I came to do is like lean into that uncomfortability, like do it. I don't care how scary it is, just do it. And so they're like, who wants to go first? And I'm over here like, just get it over with. So I raise my hand and I go for it. And they're like, okay, how nervous are you? And I was like, you guys, I don't know what's going to come out, but I'm going to try really hard. So I just went for it, and I didn't second guess myself. And of course, I'm talking about something I'm very passionate about. So it came out so chill. Like, it was like, whoa, was that rehearsed? It's kind of like this whole podcast thing, because I've never really been on a podcast until I got with you guys and we did a podcast, and I was like, whoa, was that like good? Or like, okay, like, can we improve on that? And that's kind of like where I stepped into that, like, just do it, do the hard thing, get it over with. The first time it's going to suck. But I got done and they were like, okay, how did that sound? Was she super nervous? And the whole room's like, no, she sounded awesome. Good job. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you guys. That's awesome. So the next day I was able to like present so much better just because I trusted myself. And that's literally a day, like 24 hours. So it's crazy what you can do when you just force yourself to do the uncomfortable thing and not care. Like, guess what? Everyone who would have stood up in that room is going to be nervous. So like understanding that we're all the same and we all kind of have those fears and that uncomfortability. But if we just go for it, like that's brave and that's you growing.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like the physiological reaction to just simply like standing up in front of people and talking, you know?
It
And
really is.
and whenever you were talking about it, I got to thinking like some of the common things is like you might be like shaky a little bit, you might be kind of dry mouth maybe or whatever. You have all these physiological reactions, and then I was like, that's kind of similar to like the same thing that happens whenever you're like doing a challenging set of something, like, you know,
Yes.
squats or bench press or shoulder press, whatever it is. Like you almost have those same reactions, like physiological.
Yes.
And you're just it's just like putting yourself under that weight, and whenever you're repping it out or whatever, you know, you have that reaction. But as you know, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, that same weight no longer makes you have those same physiological reactions. So it's just kind of putting yourself under that weight, under that pressure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. There's actually a song or a lyric in Rob Bailey. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but very, very good gym music. And it's like, I love it when my heart beats fast. And I relate so hard to that. I'm like chasing that every single day. So it's like, what is that one thing I can do to move the needle forward that is so uncomfortable, but I know it's going to make my heart like it makes me feel alive. And it's like, I literally forced the growth today. Okay, tomorrow when I do that same thing, it's going to be easier and I'm going to get better at it. So I love that you like made that connection because that is huge. And I think that's really what started my like self-development, like personal development journey was the gym and just chasing that feeling every single time I step foot in the gym. And then if you could translate that over into life, it's like, you have no idea how wildly capable you are of whatever you want if you just go for it.
Yeah.
So
I was actually talking to somebody today and about like this idea how you already have like you're already the person that's going to be like that, you know, CEO of $1 million company. You might not have gotten there yet, but you're already that person. It's just a matter of taking the steps. It's just a matter of climbing that ladder. It's literally like all the things are within you. You might need to grow some of those things, of course, but like you have all the tools necessary to get there. It's just a matter of like, it's a matter of action and time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell my ladies that literally daily. I'm like, you already have everything you need inside of you. It's just fostering that. It's leaning into that uncomfortable. It's pushing through those hard days. It's showing up when we don't want to. And it's literally forcing ourselves to grow because we're not going to grow by accident. You don't just get in that spot by accident. It's like consistent persistence and just taking action, even how scary, like no matter how scary, just put the emotions away, go for it, do it. I promise you it's going to turn out better than you ever imagined.
Definitely. And a lot of times on this podcast, we kind of talk in the terms of like talking to other athletes, like here's some advice for athletes, or here's some, you know, here's a story that athletes can relate to. But in terms of like coaches out there, because there's a lot of people who want to coach and like you yourself, you know, you want to get better. You want to figure out psychological things. You want to figure out, you know, business things that'll help, all these different things. But in regards to just kind of like the very basics of it, where do you find that balance? Where do you find the like the as funny as it sounds, like the time, like how do you manage that while also being an athlete?
I love this question. First immediate thought is like put yourself in rooms with those coaches that you aspire to be, like talk to them, pick their brains, like ask them questions, because anyone who is ahead of you, or at least you feel like they are ahead of you, they're happy to share that stuff. They're happy to educate. They're happy to help. So that's my first thing. And then how do I find the balance? This kind of goes back to like the better you get, the better coach you're going to be. So the more you know you and the more you know what drives you, the better leader you're going to be, the better coach you're going to be. So that's a big one. And then how do I find that balance? I'm an all-in type of person. So honestly, I struggle with the balance. I'm still working on that. But I mean, I will find myself like, instead of watching Netflix, I'm watching YouTube. on training or on peaking or on this. Like, I find it so fascinating. And I truly believe you have to be a student of the sport to coach in the sport, to be in the sport, to be at that top level where you want to go. You have to understand that you don't know everything, and we're constantly learning, constantly evolving. This sport is constantly evolving. So like, how do we keep up? We keep learning, we keep forcing the growth with that. So yeah, like in my free time versus watching like Netflix, I'm usually watching like Top 10 and Olympia, like breaking down the details of like that. And it's really boring to some people, but like to me, it just lights me up. It like gives me energy after a long day of work. And now it's like my fun time of like, I get to expand even more. So I think it's just, you don't know what you're truly capable of until you kind of make that schedule that allows for that training day after day after day. Cause it's like, it doesn't even feel like training to me. It doesn't feel like research, but that's exactly what I'm doing just because it's so passionate. So what is your passion? And then chase that. Cause I think a lot of coaches do try and get into it and coach like everybody. And I don't really like recommend that. I would recommend like niching down on like who you're really most passionate about, and then making sure you serve them hard, learning all about that demographic. How can you serve them even harder? And really tapping into that. Because if you're not passionate about it, you're gonna have some clients on your roster you're passionate about, some you're not. And like that's not fair. And it's really fun when you create what you want to, and then you start attracting what you want to work with. And clients can feel that. They feel that energy, that you are excited to help them get better and that kind of thing.
This episode is brought to you by Move Your Body Apparel, a Lexington-based, community-ran premium activewear brand that promotes the importance of daily movement. Save 20% off your first order with the link below, or use code TWR20. Online at mybapparel.com.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.
And because you can have that passion, right? And I think a lot of people have passion about something, but transferring that passion, how do you, and maybe it's something also that you've become better at, but how do you like take the excitement that you have and that you like, you can see the potential in this person? How do you give that to somebody else?
I love this question. That's a very, very good question. I'm still working on this for sure, but I think it definitely comes from building the relationship and understanding that what we do is, yeah, it's macros, yeah, it's training, yeah, it's okay, prep, okay, off season, whatever, but understanding that individual on a deeper level, what drives them, what motivates them, what's their why, where do they ultimately want to go, and then where did they ultimately come from? Because I think a lot of times I work through this probably weekly with my clients of they're like, I'm not moving fast enough. I'm not this. I'm not this. And they're so fixated on that end goal. And I'm like, woman, stop it. You are missing the entire journey. Like, this is the fun part. You are better now than you have ever been. Like, can we appreciate that? And then let's get better tomorrow kind of thing. And just like making the journey about who they become and not like that thing that they have to become to be happy kind of thing. So enjoying the now, like right now, and focusing on that. And then just understanding that every single athlete has a different background. So when you are talking to them, coaching them through something, reminding them of that, of like, hey, do you remember where you were 6 months ago? Because you're showing up as a completely different athlete now. And you're telling me you don't like how your quads haven't grown. But yet we're talking about quads. And 6 months ago, we were sitting on the couch and not even working out. Like, come on. So just appreciating the journey and how much growth there really is every step of the way. And kind of taking it back to now. I think a lot of times we're so future focused, and it's like, I'll be happy when I get this. I'm telling you guys, I did that for way too long. And guess what? When I got to that end goal, it didn't make me any happier. It was like 24 hours. And then it was like, what's next? And that's how we all, like, as humans, that's just how we operate. So it's like, how can we enjoy the now And as coaches, I think it's our job to remind them, this is not just bodybuilding. This is who you're becoming. This is how you're showing up for your family. This is how you're showing up at your career. Like, there's so much more that goes into it than just bodybuilding.
Yeah, definitely. It translates over to so many other things. You mentioned and I think it got me kind of thinking a little bit about it. It's very interesting. We are so human beings, we really, it's kind of ingrained in us to be focused on the short term. How can we make ourselves feel better in the short term, right? Because we want to survive, and that's really evolutionarily, that's the way that we have had to think. So it's not really a surprise necessarily, but whenever you look at a goal, and whenever you look at somebody who is only thinking about how they want to be this in the future, it's almost kind of surprising to think people aren't more either truly strictly one way or the other, where since we are so short-term focused, where we would be more appreciative of where we are in the short term, versus it's kind of like a double standard we put on ourselves, to where we want this short-term gratification, but we also don't want to appreciate what we've done and have gratitude in that.
For sure. It definitely is. It's a balancing act, because some days you kind of retract back to that, looking long term. And then some days you are like, man, I just want to feel better, short term. And I think we do have to have a mix of both. I think there needs to be things that light us up every single day to kind of remind us how truly strong we are and how we are getting our goals, and our goals happen now. It's what are we doing now to accomplish that later? But we also have to understand there's going to be hard days, and we still have to show up then. So isn't everything on a spectrum? I feel like we have to watch saying never and always, because you truly never know what the future is going to bring. But what we can control is how we're showing up today and how we're going to show up tomorrow, and just always learning. And that's what, when my new clients come in, that's probably the first thing we really talk about is morning routines and night routines. And morning routines, setting your day up, taking a minute to sit with yourself and deciding, hey, what kind of day do I want to have? Because I don't know about you, but it took me 25 plus years to start doing that. And before then, I was rushing out the house and I took on whatever the day brought. That's how it was. And now I'm so adamant about my morning routine, because I understand what it does for my mindset. That starts me winning the day right off the bat. And now whatever comes my way, I know I'm going to handle it with grace. I'm going to handle it in the best way I can, versus just reacting and overreacting. I'm in a proactive state, and I'm like, hey, whatever the day brings, I got this kind of thing. And then I'm also setting my intentions for how can I move the needle forward? What can I do today to ensure I have a better tomorrow and I enjoy my day? And I do fun things that light me up, kind of thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned there, and you mentioned it actually previously too, something that I want to talk about from a coaching perspective for other coaches. Talk a little bit about the onboarding process, what that is and what that does for you and the athlete.
Absolutely. I love that. So onboarding, basically, I will say ours is pretty in depth, but that has evolved over time. In the beginning, obviously, it was the basics. What foods don't you like? What foods do you like? How many meals a day do you want? How many times a week do you want to train? That kind of thing. Just getting the basics of what this client wants in their life. Because our whole thing is, we don't want to take you 0 to 100 real freaking quick, and then you'd be like, no, this isn't for me. We want to take you 0 to 2 and then 2 to 5 and baby steps, and ease this into your life so it becomes a lifestyle and not some fad diet we do for a little while and then we're done at the end of it. We want really to build these habits so you can keep your results forever. So our onboarding process now, it's basically a few questions about everything I just chatted about. And then we actually have another one that goes a lot deeper. What is your why? Who do you want to become in this journey? We kind of give them prompts to dive deeper. And then also why are we ready for this change now? What is our reasoning behind doing this? What are 3 commitments you're going to make to yourself? We also actually have them do a letter to themselves. So they write it on their own terms and they email it to themselves. So a year later, they get to see whether they held up their promises or they did not. And that is very, very powerful because at the end of the day, it's us versus us. Like you can have a coach all day long, but if you're not committed to yourself, you're not going to be committed to that coach. And our goal, we don't want you relying on us. We want to be there to push you to get to the next level. But like we said, going back in the beginning, our clients have everything they already need in us. It's up to us to just pull that out of them. So how do we do that? We get them super committed in the beginning. And then, hey, when we do have those rocky days later on, us as coaches, we can go back to that and say, hey, do you remember in the beginning when we said that we wanted to show up harder because we weren't happy with the way we were showing up for our daughters or our husband or whatever their reasoning is? And that gives them the power to say, hey, you know what? You're right. I committed to this and I'm falling back to my old habits. It's time to like take control again. And then we kind of get them back on that. So I will say ours is very in depth, but it's just evolved over the years. And I love it because it's like that. I wish I would have had that. And that's where I create everything from my business from. That's another great piece of advice for somebody wanting to get into this. What do you wish you would have had when you started? Because for me, I wanted more. I wanted to understand the why behind what I was doing. I also I didn't really have a reasoning. I just wanted to fit in like a size 0. And like that only lasts so long. It's like, I didn't understand the generational change I was actually making. I didn't understand this was going to be my career. Like, of course you don't understand that when you get into it, but it's like, if I would have had those, I don't think I would have made a lot of mistakes I made on the way. But thankfully, I did have those mistakes because now I can teach my clients what not to do. So that's very cool. But just committing to yourself when you do start a journey like that, and then reminding yourself that you're the only one holding you back. Like those excuses that you're telling your coach as to why you can't check in, it's really just an excuse. Like, let's be real. You either get excuses or you get results. And that's our biggest thing is like trying to get the client to understand, okay, next time we're in this situation, how can we better manage that? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be able to assess the situation and say, okay, how can I be more prepared next time? Or how can I, that kind of thing next time? And that's what coaching is fine tuning those habits day after day and us getting out of our own ways. And that's why I believe coaches should have coaches too. And that's why I love my coach because she holds me accountable and she's constantly pushing me to push myself harder. And the harder I push myself, the harder my clients push themselves. So it's a very cool dynamic of just, aren't we all out here trying to get better every day in whatever it is we're chasing?
Definitely. Yeah. And, how long do you feel like just in general, I think it's different for each person, like how that connection goes, but how long do you feel like it takes for you to truly know how to coach like a specific client, not necessarily in the like exact protocols, but in like how to talk to them, because talking to someone too is different than how to email them or how to text them. Like, how long do you feel like it takes you to kind of gain that rapport, I guess?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's a very tough question. I'm going to say like a month to like 6 months. Cause like I have clients who it's a two-way communication in a relationship is a two-way street. So I always tell clients, the more you give, the more you're going to receive here. So the more open you are about your struggles, about your challenges, about what lights you up, like the better I can serve you as the coach. But again, that's a two-way street. So if they're not coming to us for questions and answers, and yeah, we can dig a little bit, but we truly don't know what's going on as coaches. So it's hard to build that relationship. And some people do want to keep it strictly fitness. Like you ask them personal questions and they're like almost thrown off by it. And like, I respect that completely. But as a coach, like that's why I dive deep on that very first call, like that consultation call. I'm like, hey, I want to know everything. I'm pretty deep when it comes to coaching because I want to make sure it's going to be a right fit for both of us. But also I care about you a lot more than just an athlete on my roster. Like I want to know what's going on, and that's how I can better serve you. because the more I know about your family, the more I can help you kind of work through that. And I understand the deeper reason. And just having that empathy and caring about what you do. I think this industry gets a lot of like almost hate, because there is coaches out there who will just push a game plan and say update, no change, or whatever. And it's not very personal. And I get that for some people, that's what they want to play. Like they like that division of just bodybuilding kind of thing. But for me, that's not why I got into it. I got into it to truly change lives. And I believe in order to change those lives, I have to get to know these women on a deeper level. I have to understand them, where I almost have to troubleshoot before the troubles even come up, kind of thing.
Yeah. And you mentioned making sure it's a good fit. And so for people out there who don't really, haven't had the number of potential clients and contacts with people, how do you handle, and I want to get into another side of this here in just a second, but how do you handle the person that isn't the good fit? Like, how do you go about professionally saying that and like delivering that in a way to where it's not discouraging for them to reach out to somebody else or anything else?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a tough question. And I've struggled with this. My biggest thing is impact. So at the end of the day, how can I impact them? So I will try and ask questions to dig deeper, and I will really try to like question their thinking, because a lot of times when I feel like it's not a right fit, it's just because they're not open to it. Maybe they came in thinking, oh, they only need a personal trainer. And I'm like, I don't do that at all. I do everything. So it's like, they're just not at that level. But I give them tools that they can take right then and there. So it's like, okay, well, let's work on our water. Let's work on our steps. Let's work on our protein. Do those 3 things and then like hit me back up in 2 months or whatever. And I kind of almost give them a homework assignment. So I know like, hey, I don't feel like this is a right fit right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to be in the future. But if they're really set on like what they want, I respect that. I say, hey, you can hop in our free Facebook group, whatever. And we have accountability like post every single day. You can hop in there and let us know what you are doing to get better, because we are still here to root you on. We're still here to cheer you on. So I think just like finding that gap of where you can provide value, even if it's not on their roster. Like I have so many people in my circle that are like that. They're not on the roster, but they're showing up every single day. And I'm like, hey, I see you. Keep it up. Like, keep going. And I think that's really what it's all about, is like, I don't care how big my roster is. I care about how big the impact of that roster is. So how much are my clients out there showing up, encouraging others to show up? And that's our whole thing, is impacted women impact women. So it's like, how can I continue to show up for these women and keep serving them, even if they're not paying me? Because it's really, I know it's a long process to get a coach. I know it took me 10 years, not 10 years. It took me about 7 probably to really like dial in and say, hey, I'm getting a coach now. But I always thought like, I have to be at this level to get that coach. I have to be this. And we all have our own things that get in our way. So I get it. But the more you're around people being coached and it becomes more normal to you, then you're like, okay, I understand the value. Like I see where I am worth it to make that investment in myself and my health and fitness. So yeah, I think just always giving them the best value I can, even if it's not on the roster.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout. This episode is brought to you by Move Your Body Apparel, a Lexington-based, community-ran premium activewear brand that promotes the importance of daily movement. Save 20% off your first order with the link below or use code TWR20. Online at mybapparel.com.
Yeah. And then also handling the situation where a person's situation may change. It's not going the way that things should be going. How do you go about handling that situation?
That's a tough one too. But when I started this, I promised myself to stay in alignment. And what that means to me is stay in alignment with my core values, with my team. that kind of thing. And one of our core values is being unapologetically authentic. So when that situation does arise, I say, hey, let's book a call and let's chat through this. And that's where I'm kind of diving deeper. Like, okay, like where are we misaligned? Because I don't like the way this is going. I don't feel like this is a good fit for you anymore. I don't feel like it's a good fit for me. Like, how can I help you? And kind of even see if I can. I'm always going to fight for that client. Like that's just my nature. I'm like, I can't give up hope on you. I know you're not showing up the way we need you to, or whatever it is. But then I'm like, okay, what's our next? We got to adapt this plan because it's not working right now. So we try and come up with a new game plan. And if they're really set on like, no, I'm just not at this level. I'm going to focus on my career now. Or I want to focus on this now or whatever. Or they just genuinely feel like they can handle it on their own and they're past that level of like needing that accountability. I'm like, girl, this is what we built you for. So go for it. Like I'm always here if you need me. And we kind of have like some resources like habit trackers or that kind of thing. And I'm like, take this, check in with yourself weekly. Like we all still need that accountability. But girl, keep on keeping on, keep pushing, keep forcing that growth, keep leveling up, and you will be amazed at how far you can go. And the fact that you're going to do it on your own, like that is incredible. Just because I want to coach 24/7 and I don't want to take a break from that self-development because I'm addicted to getting better doesn't mean that every single woman out there is that same exact way. So understanding that everyone is valid in where they're at. And it just comes down to communicating and figuring out what is best for that client and coach at the time.
Yeah, I think it's challenging, a challenging process whenever you have like a certain level of whatever it is, like discipline or determination or whatever, in understanding like some people just aren't going to be there, or maybe some people are even more, but that, that's fine too. But like, I think whenever you have like this certain baseline, it's hard to understand how other people don't have a certain baseline as well.
Yes, I can totally relate to that because we do have lifestyle clients on the rosters and their biggest goal is to just not feel trapped with macros. So they want that freedom on the weekends. And we talk about this every single team call because it comes up, and it's basically just understanding that we are all humans on our own journey. And just because that's the way I do it doesn't mean the way that's how you do it. So I think a big thing that we focus on is go to bed proud. What is going to make you proud? If you go out and enjoy a dinner with your family and you're not tracking macros, is that going to make you proud? If it's not, don't do it. If it is, and you need that kind of like release to just say, hey, we're taking a minute to be present and enjoy dinner, and you're going to be proud because guess what? You couldn't do that 6 months ago. Or if you couldn't do that 6 months ago and it became a whole, now I have to have alcohol, I have to have dessert or all the things. And now you have much more control that you're like, hey, I can just feel my body and have a nice dinner, not worry about it. That is growth. So it's just understanding that every single person is on a different journey. And the only way we can navigate that is asking ourselves, is this going to make me proud? And then following suit with that. If it doesn't make you proud, don't go there. We aren't there yet. We've got to learn to trust ourselves more. We've got to learn to build those habits that are going to make us proud and that we can kind of let loose or whatever it is.
I think being like happy at the end of the day, like you say, being proud, but like being able, I think that's a lot of people's like problem when it comes to like even being able to like fall asleep, because you're constantly thinking like, what did I do? What did I not do? What do I have to do tomorrow? Like there's so many thoughts. Some things you just, they're not realistic things that you can control either. So though that's kind of a separate thing, but I feel like the more that at least that I do within the day to like push me towards my goal, like, oh, did I spend enough time on X, Y, and Z? And then if I can really say yes about that, it's like, it does make you feel proud, and it doesn't like, it's not something that you're thinking about laying there thinking, oh, I wish I would have, or I should have done this, Because at the end of the day, like you can do that forever. You can like every single night you can lay there and think that and until, the end of your life. And either you're going to learn hopefully from that feeling or, you're just going to continue to, I think, to have that kind of, and maybe that's where a lot of current day anxiety does come from, is people not pushing themselves, not willing to kind of get in that discomfort zone, if you will. And we can lie to ourselves during the day, but when everything is quiet and we're trying to really have peace with our mind and fall asleep, it's, it's still there in our mind, and we can't sometimes quiet that.
Yes, for sure. We talk about this a lot too, but anxiety is based on the future, and it's based on like what we don't know. And the cool thing about it is like there's no anxiety in the now. Like I'm not anxious sitting here talking to you because I'm present. I'm here with you. I'm listening. I'm talking. I'm contributing. So it's like when we put it in that perspective, it's like, but the future hasn't even happened. So why are we wasting our now in something that hasn't happened that we can control? Because if we do the work now, then we can have a better tomorrow. And then we can have an even better day after that. So a big thing that we have our clients focus on is like 3 things to move the needle forward every single day. So whether that be your workout, whether that be intentional time with your husband, or, I mean, every client has different 3 things, and those things are going to change as you evolve, as you grow. But just setting that boundary of like, it's just 3 things. Us as humans nowadays, we want to do 15 things a day. And when we do those 15 things, do we really do them, or do we rush through them, or are we pissed because we didn't get them all done? And really, it's like, what if we were just intentional with 3 things and we were very present for those 3 things? Like, and just having like almost like a grounding practice of like, okay, I'm here right now. I'm going to stop stressing about the unknown in the future, because right now is all that matters. This is a moment in time that we're not going to be able to get back. So when we think about that and showing up with extreme intention in every single moment throughout our day, it's wild. 1, how much you can accomplish, and then how proud you are going to go to bed because you're like, wow, I actually like hung out with my family, and I like spoke to them. I wasn't sitting on my phone scrolling social media. So just trying to avoid the distractions and really be in the now versus anxiety in the future about the unknown when we haven't even proved ourselves what that's going to look like.
Yeah. It is amazing like what you can do if you just like set a few things to do each day over like the course of longer periods of time, like what that actually adds up to. It's a cultural thing, especially an American thing, where you have to be busy in order to feel like you're actually being productive. And it's almost
yes.
like the other way around. The less busy you are, the more productive you can actually be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we work with a lot of busy women, so I feel like it's right up our alley to chat about this, because you really like, it's not like a badge of honor to be so busy you don't even know what time it is, or to be so busy. Like, it's more of a badge of honor to be so intentional you don't know what time it is. And like, I think when you really like switch out those words of like busy versus like intentional, like what if I went through my day being intentional, like looking people in the eyes, having conversations with them, versus just running into the grocery store, going to get what I need, and then running off to the next thing. Like, just seeking those opportunities to like be grounded in the moment and like appreciate what you have right now, because in 24 hours that could completely change. And I think that's just a big thing that we take for granted. And I think another thing is like chasing freedom, not chasing like production or productivity or like how many things can I get done. It's like, how can I feel so free because of the work that I've done? Like, what does that look like? How can I be present in this moment and not attached to any of the outcome, but how can I just show up, provide value, and be me kind of thing?
I think there's so many reasons when you look at like just the non-bodybuilding side of being a coach. Like bodybuilding is one thing. Of course, there's tons of variables you have to control. There's just the human being itself that you have to kind of like wrangle in and try to teach and inspire and all those other things. But then you throw in like a lifestyle person who doesn't ever want to compete, and you have, an infinite number more of things. There's so many variables within the human experience, and being able to coach with those things, it's pretty amazing, really.
Yes, I will say I absolutely love that about our community because we do have both sides. And you've got busy mamas who have 4 kids, 2 jobs, and they're still getting it done. And then you have competitors who are working jobs, have kids, still getting it done. And it's just like they're all inspired by each other because, like I said, people connect on pain and struggle. So when one mama over here is struggling to hit her macros or struggling to get to the grocery or whatever, it's like this other one is like, yes, you got this. Like, and they're just all rooting for each other and coming together for the same cause of like, hey, we're getting better every day together in our own journey, in our own lanes. And it's just very cool because I struggle to see anywhere else where that kind of comes through of like, hey, I can go to this community when I'm struggling, talk about it and not be like shamed for it. Or just like really valued. Like it's not pushed. Like, yes, you may have like your Facebook communities or I don't know. That's like the only thing that I'm thinking of right now. But where else can you go and like ask for that and then get that validation of like, hey, you've got this. Like you didn't come this far to only come this far. Like let's buckle up, do the hard thing now so we have an easier tomorrow kind of thing. And we keep building that discipline and we keep building that self-trust in ourselves kind of thing. So it's very, very cool to see because a lot of people will ask me like, how do you balance that? And really they balance it. Like when you cultivate a group of just strong, driven women who are getting after it, they have no choice but to build each other up. It's very, very cool.
Yeah. I think that it attracts a certain type of person who wants to get better, who wants to, continue to put themselves around other people who are trying to do the same thing. And like you said, there's almost really no other community like it.
Yes, it really is because we like walk into that gym to like destroy our bodies to build them back up stronger. So it is a very strange dynamic, but also I think it's just the most empowering because you learn so much about yourself. And that's what I think ultimately I got into this because of fitness, but like really this is like life. Like this is everything. And it's like fitness is just the gateway to that. It's like, hey, I want to look better, but you end up getting into it and you're like, man, I want to feel better. I want to be better for my family. I want to be better for my community, the people around me. Like, and it just one thing leads to another and leads to another. And then you realize what you're truly capable of. And it's like, you just get hungry for more and more. It's, I think I talked about this on my first episode, but I think as humans, we all have those addictions and it's just where does your addiction lie and how are you going to foster that in a positive light? So it's very, very cool to see women come in and they start out like at home workouts and then literally 2 weeks in they're in the gym and 3 weeks in they're at a team lift at a bodybuilding gym and they're like, I don't know how I got here, but you just keep showing up, you keep trusting yourself and you know that you're not alone. And the thing is everyone who's been in a gym has been uncomfortable. So it doesn't matter what level you are, you still feel that certain like insecurity about something. Like, aren't we always trying to work? That's why we do bodybuilding. We have those insecurities we're looking at and we're trying to make the best out of ourselves. And that's why I say it's truly not about the end goal at all. It's about who you become in the journey and how you're showing up for others and the impact you're leaving on people and just how you're building up others through the process. And the thing about insecurities is like, just like I said, we all have them, but it's like the second that you own yours, nobody can throw that back at you. And you're like, man, I already own that. So, okay, bye. Like, it's not a big deal. And you're like, man, I'm working every single day to work past that. So, don't we all have weaknesses? Like, that's what makes us human. And that's what makes us like strive for greatness. And it's exciting when you know your weaknesses because you just know that is more opportunity for you to get even better and grow even more. So, I always say our mess is our message. So it's like all those things that you're trying to hide, just let them go. Own it, girl. Because like that's when people relate to you and they're like, you know what? I was in her same shoes. Like when I was broke working 3 jobs trying to afford my 800 square foot house, like that's life. That's how you start out. Everybody has to start out in a certain place and then build themselves up from that. So it's like if I tried to hide from that, like why? I don't, yeah, I think it just makes you real. And like, I connect with real people and stories like that. So it's, yeah, just owning your story because no one else has it like you.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think a really good place to end this podcast. I really appreciate you coming on again. It was great getting to chat with you, kind of more in depth about coaching this time.
Heck yes. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me. And it was a pleasure chatting and diving into all of it.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.